Hi, I'm Peter Reynolds, and welcome to Prose and Conversations, the podcast that explores what it takes to be successful, whether you're from the world of business, science, or the arts. Today, we're going to be looking at the business of show business. So many creatives, whether you're an actor, a writer, a dancer, or a singer, overlook the fact that they are the product. And like any good entrepreneur or small business owner, they have to understand the tools of business to market that product the best way they can, to get in front of the people they want to get in front of. And joining me today to discuss that topic is Damon Adachi, who is a marketing consultant with Sevenfold Marketing. Damon, how you doing?
Oh, I'm feeling great today. Very creative and purple and ready to be the Schuster to your Wayne today.
It's interesting because I think, would you agree that this idea of, as a performer, you really are your own small business?
Absolutely. I mean, I can't really relate to that, not being a marketed performer myself. But I think what we'll find is interesting is that it also goes both ways. And as a businessman or woman or entrepreneur, you need to perform as well. So I'd like to get some insight from our guests on that today as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And luckily, we do have two people who I think can really help us unpack this topic. And I think it's fair, to say veterans of the acting and writing game. And we have with us Geri Hall, who's an award-winning actor, writer, and comedian. She got her start at Second City. Gary Pearson is an award-winning writer and actor who also started his career at Second City. Together, they have written and produced and star in Middle Raged, a sketch comedy show that is currently playing to enthusiastic audiences across Canada. Welcome to Prose and Conversations. So, Gary, maybe we could start with you and just say, how important are business skills, for actors in the industry, for creatives in the industry?
Well, I think they're very important, and I really wish I had them. I think that the business part of it is the last thing that performers and writers really think about, because they just think about the creative making stuff up and writing the show and performing, and they just, I mean, you want people in an ideal world, you just want Lorne Michaels to come over and discover you and put you on TV or whatever, and the rest is fine. But that's not the way it's worked, at least not for me. So you have to learn how to maneuver through the business side of it. And it doesn't really come naturally to me, but I find myself asking a lot of questions like, well, how can we get into these theaters? How does this work? How do they book people? How much advertising should they be doing? How much should we be doing? What should we be asking for a fee and all that kind of stuff? Is stuff you tend to think about after, but that these things are possible, and you want to cross that bridge that gets you from this idea you had in your head to being able to present it to a lot of people and ultimately to get paid for it. So the business is very important.
Geri, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Gary. We make fun of ourselves all the time that we are constantly lamenting the fact that our business skills are not necessarily where we'd love them to be. Gary and I started at Second City many, many years ago, got onto the stage there doing sketch comedy and improv, but the Second City machine was behind us. So they would just call us and say, be at the airport for this touring gig and make sure you've got clean clothes, and you just go do your thing. Gary and I, with Middle Raged, our new show, we have no machine behind us other than ourselves. And so we have had to really start our careers over with this live show entity and say, well, how do we do this? How much of the marketing is our responsibility? And even if it's not our responsibility, is it a better show if we take on more of the business stuff than we maybe even are expected to? So we really are just every day trying to hustle, and Gary and I are of a certain age, so even social media is not necessarily something that comes completely naturally to us. We're marketing more on social media now. We're printing handbills. We talk to strangers in communities that we go into and say, hey, what are you doing tonight? Because our bottom line is that we want bums in seats at that theater. When the theater is packed, everybody has an amazing time, but it's getting those bums into seats is the challenge of our business. And it's something that we're figuring out every day. So it's a learning curve for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say that I'm extremely jealous of artists and how they can live their passion in that sense. And, you know, I was an aspiring musician once upon a time. But, you know, even as a business person, you have to learn in your modeling and in those business practices to sort of manage your expectations and say, I'm not expecting to become a business mogul overnight, or in this version, to become famous overnight. I need to appeal to a small audience and connect strongly with that small audience. Is that something that you also experience as a performer, where you say, I'm not expecting to be in the starting cast of SNL overnight, but I do need to do my micro marketing, my micro market management in a way that makes sure that I'm doing a great job for a smaller audience?
Absolutely. I mean, our show started at this tiny little club in downtown Oakville called the Moonshine. So a dark, cool space that's really for like country artists. So it's like usually a guy and his guitar there. And Geri and I stood on this tiny stage and we thought, we're going to test this material. And the only thing that matters to us is that we make people laugh. If somebody trusts us, I mean, back at the Moonshine, I think it was a $5 or $10 ticket to get in to see us then. If someone has spent their $5 or $10 on us, we need to make sure that that was money well spent for them so that they tell friends to come to the show. And this is really quite something. When Geri and I started writing these sketches just before the pandemic, our goal was just to make each other laugh. And, you know, comedy for us is just joy. And we thought, let's see if we can make each other laugh with some of this stuff. And when we realized we were sort of instinctively writing on themes that were universally relatable to anybody over 20, we thought, oh, wait, there's a bigger market for this out there. But how do we get this to the market? So yeah, I mean, I think it was a big light bulb that went off for us too, Geri, wouldn't you say, when we realized the whole point of this show is reflecting people's lives back at them. So, you know, the audiences that typically fill a soft seat theater, this show is about them. And that's when the marketing light went off. It's like, well, you're selling to an already sort of captive audience. You just have to let them know that the show's coming. So we don't expect Lorne Michaels will be calling anytime soon, but if he does, I'm ready.
Yeah, well, that's one of the, there's a couple of things about showbiz. One, I think it was Louis B. Mayer who said, nobody knows anything. So you just have to go on your own instincts and say, I think I have something that people want to see and hear, and then try to put it out. And that's something that we've really felt like we'd hit something. We've got something that we think is very marketable here. And it turns out it is. And we know now that if we go into a town and they know that we're coming and they've heard the premise of the show, and frankly, a lot of them know Geri from 22 Minutes, which is a great asset. But if they know what we're doing and what night we're on and all that, then they come and they really have a great time. So, but we have to get them there. We can't just show up somewhere. There has to be some work that's done around it as well.
100%. We see such a huge difference if we go into, Geri and I just toured Newfoundland, and we were very blessed that several CBC radio shows across Newfoundland featured us in on-air interviews. And as soon as people knew, they started buying tickets. But then we've also played towns where, for whatever reason, the relationship between the theater and local radio either isn't there, or it turns into advertising dollars that these recovering theaters can't afford. When people don't know we're coming, much, much harder to fill the seats. Yeah. So that's just basic business, right?
You both come from a background in improv, both being from Second City. One, I think it's a reasonable assumption that as entrepreneurs and small business owners, thinking on your feet, is a very important skill. How valuable would you say your improv experience has been in the sort of marketing yourselves, both as actors and writers, and the show itself?
Geri, do you want to take that one
Well,
first?
yes, I think that's true. There's a couple things that you have to learn in improv. And I've done this in improv classes that I've taught and everything, is you get a bunch of grown-up people in a room, and one of the first things you do is try to get them to act ridiculous and like, okay, now you're a duck. And then they have to act like a duck. And so you have to take away that sort of veneer of adulthood that we all have had pounded into us. Like, we have to act grown up, and you have to act like a child again, and you have to have fun and be spontaneous. And so when we're promoting the show, we can't think about, oh, this is embarrassing. We've done lots of times where we've been in front of a theater handing out cards. It's like, I can't be embarrassed walking up to this person and saying, hey, you look like you're the right age for this show or whatever. Or, hey, you know what? You look like you need a laugh. What about this? And so you don't really think about how you might be embarrassing yourself. You have to get over that. And also that Canadian shyness of, well, I know it's good, but I don't want to go out and tell people it's good, because we don't do that. Well, Geri is fantastic at it. And we have had to get over that thing, like, and we will go up to people, when we're in a town, when we were in Gander, Newfoundland, a week before our show, because we were preparing. And we went to the local park and handed out cards and just said, hey, come to our show in a week. And then the funny thing was, some of the people we were meeting were tourists from Ontario. And then we've heard since on our Facebook page that we handed out cards to people in Gander, Newfoundland, and then they came to the shows in Oakville and in Hamilton. So you don't know who you're talking to and when that might pay off, but you just keep promoting anyway. And those people didn't go to the show in Gander, but we did get them. So,
yeah. I would just add to that too. I think you said that beautifully, Geri, but, improv removing that veneer of adulthood. I'd go even a little bit further to say that improv, it teaches you to let down your guard. It helps you just erase that voice of self-doubt. And I think no matter what business you're in, I think most adults don't want to admit that we have dark thoughts of self-doubt. And why do I deserve to succeed? And am I just as good as, the people I hope to be peers with one day? I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough. And improv training teaches you to just shut all those voices off in your head and to listen to yourself, to not censor yourself, to not doubt yourself, and to honor whatever comes flying out of your mouth as valid on the stage. And I think that applies in any business, that as kids, we all just believe in ourselves. And then as you get older, you just get so full of insecurity. And I think we just have to doff that as Canadians, as business people, as artists, and just say, I deserve my space on whatever stage is the stage for you.
Okay, so on that note, as entrepreneurs, I'm sure Peter can relate to this. There is a point in time earlier on in your career where you need to present bigger and more established than you actually are, and you have to fake it till you make it. And that's something that it was a learned skill in this for me, and I was not very good at it earlier on. I mean, I put marketing materials behind my brand that would make me look established. Small plug for myself there. But what I'm interested in is, what kind of tips could you give entrepreneurs on how to embody a confidence and an experience and a wisdom that they may not actually have inside on the outside during that sales call, that proposal review, where you really have to kind of fake it till you make it for a few minutes?
Well, I find one thing. I was just going to say one thing. Go ahead. Sorry, dude. I was going to say, find yourself a ridiculous redhead to partner with. That helps a lot. And then it makes it a lot easier to do it. But the fake it till you make it also helps in marriage, I find. So, so it's a complete package.
I was just going to say, Damon, you made me think of this little comic I saw on Facebook the other day that said, fake it till you make it. And it was this tiny little terrified goldfish that had strapped on a shark costume going into a business meeting. I think that's all of us, right? You just strap on the shark costume and hope. I don't know. There is an element of course you have to fake it till you make it, but I think too that you just have to make sure that when you have those opportunities to finally sell yourself, when you finally do get in that room, that you actually are prepared, right? Because no amount of faking it is going to matter if your product, in our case, it's our show, but whatever your product is, if you're not, incredibly prepared for those opportunities, then they just fly by you. Yeah. So, if it's a confidence issue, I think you got to do whatever it takes just to get yourself through those meetings. But what is that great expression? Someone else will remember it. That luck is just preparation and opportunity meeting at the exact same moment.
Oh, that's good. That's good stuff there, Geri.
No, there you go.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I've seen that. I've seen it too, where people had one but not the other. So they were given an incredible opportunity. I'm not going to name names, but they found themselves, they landed on a TV show because they had the right look, or it was just the person they were looking for at that time. And frankly, they were in over their head. They hadn't done all the prep work, the homework beforehand as an actor and a performer and a professional, and then found themselves in over their head. So, the idea is to be 100% ready for when that opportunity presents itself. And I really feel at this point in my life, I am ready. So
it's interesting because I think, my experience, I studied at Second City, did not do the main stage or the touring company, nothing like that. But the experience that I gained learning improv, I definitely see myself applying it, to the business, the whole concept of yes and, the whole concept of that I say yes and figure it out later. So when someone would come to me and say, hey, we're doing some filming, it's going to be doing green screen. You do green screen, right? And I'm like, absolutely. And then I would go and say, holy shit, I do not do green. Okay, let's figure it. Yeah, and they say, so we just need some time lapse of this industrial process we're having done. You do time lapse, right? Of course, I do time lapse. No problem.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and so it's got me into trouble, a little bit. But I always say, you have to err on the side, a little bit on the side of danger. I think to be successful as an improv performer, you have to be sort of on that edge of it could go disastrously wrong, because it's sort of in that, on that edge where the funny really happens. And I think for entrepreneurs, that's where the success happens. When you're sort of, you don't want to put it all out there that you could lose everything, but you can't play it too safe.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. And I think that at its core just goes back again to just believing in yourself, believing that if you give yourself permission to say yes to big opportunities, that you are a smart enough, hardworking enough person that you will figure it out as you go. So yeah, yes and is an incredibly powerful mantra.
So earlier on, you mentioned your Facebook promotion, and I'm very curious on how the super rise of social media and all these other tools, such as YouTube, where you can visually show some of your product, how that's transformed your business and especially the way you market it over the last 2 decades.
Yeah, well, for Geri and I, we've started to tour middle-aged slowly but surely across Canada. Sort of started in Ontario, went out to the East Coast. We're working on the West now. And what we're finding, for instance, we have a show in Cobalt, Ontario at the end of the month. I've never been to Cobalt. I went on Waze. I found out it's 6 hours away. I think there are only 3,000 people there. How do you get to the people of Cobalt? So this morning I was searching on Facebook. Where are the Cobalt community pages? Cobalt has a What's Happening in Cobalt page. I'm frantically joining all these groups. And within days, Geri and I will be barraging those poor people with wacky, silly, funny videos, imploring them to come out to our show because Cobalt needs a laugh, just like the rest of humanity does.
Yeah.
So Geri, we did that in Newfoundland. one of our shows that about a week before our tour was not selling so well yet was in Stephenville, Newfoundland. And so we found a Stephenville community page. I think we found a Stephenville buy and sell page. And we're like, well, we're selling tickets to our show, so we deserve to be there. And we put up silly videos, and we ended up.
Here we go.
Yeah. But it's an element of shamelessness, I think, that we're just embracing that, you know, if people see our videos about the show and they're the kind of people that would enjoy a comedy show, then we win because we found them. And if someone went on to buy cardboard boxes from a neighbor because they're moving and they don't like comedy, well, we probably don't want them at our show anyway. So you just throw it out there. And you just hope that you find as many people as you can.
We hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Pros and Conversations is brought to you by For the Record Productions, providing video production services to corporate and nonprofit clients for over 20 years. To learn more about how we can help your business, visit videosthatmatter.ca. And by The Business Alliance, a professional peer group that helps you grow your business through networking, collaboration, and sound advice. To learn more about how to become a member, visit jointhealliance.biz.
And one of the things that helps us do all these shameless things is that we're very proud of the show. We know that it's funny and we really like performing together. We really enjoy it, but we know that it's good. So we know that if somebody is going to plunk down $45 for our show, that they're going to get their money's worth. So it's not hard for me to say, you really should come to this show. You're going to have a good laugh if you do. I have no problem saying that. I haven't always been able to say that about everything I've done, where it's like, yeah, I'm 100% sure that this is good. But in this case, I'm 100% sure. So I'm quite happy to walk up to a total stranger or to go on a Facebook page or to talk on the radio or whatever and talk it up because we both really believe in it.
Well, and to that point, just a funny anecdote that when Geri and I, before the pandemic, did a very shortened version of the show at Edmonton Fringe. And the Fringe culture there, it was this giant town square with hundreds of people flyering strangers. Come see my show. I'm a circus performer. Come see my one-woman thing about divorce. And Geri and I were talking to people and thinking, how do we stand out in this crowd? And I jokingly said, I'm going to offer every one of them a full money-back guarantee that will come out of your wallet, Geri. So in front of people, I would just say, if you don't come and laugh till you pee your pants, Gary's going to refund your ticket price. And they would giggle about the audacity of that. Our agent hated us saying that because he was like, well, what if nobody's asked for their money back?
Nobody's asked for their money back yet.
Believe in your product.
That's right. Get it to a place where you really believe in what you're doing, and then it makes all the promotion much, much easier.
Yeah. I love those words, audacity. I think we need more audacity, in our, in running our businesses. There's this idea, particularly to your point, Geri, about being Canadian, and maybe being, maybe slightly embarrassed, for, sort of shilling for whatever this product or service is. And I know I feel that I'll go to an event and my wife will say, did you hand out any business cards or did you talk to anybody? Well, it wasn't really the right environment for it. And I didn't want to sort of feel like a shill for my services. But if you don't talk it up, if you're not in love with what it is that you're doing, how the heck is anybody else going to be?
That's
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think, would you agree with that, Damon? That I think sometimes we need to be a little bit more audacious, in running our businesses.
Yeah, certainly. And, we've got a friend who says, it's within my right to talk to anybody about my business within 5 feet of me. and that's the kind of attitude that you need about it. And I agree, Peter and I come from a networking group where we really focus on building connection with our members and having peer advisory. So, you get out of the habit a bit of pushing your services onto people and you get more into the habit of making good connections. And I think that would probably apply to you guys as well. Like if you connect with the audience, it's a much stronger product that you deliver.
Yeah, I do think I think it's also a Canadian thing. And we often say, this is very un-Canadian, but this is a fantastic show and you will enjoy it and you will laugh. And I think there's a difference between Canadians and Americans on that score, because when they are in school, they are growing up learning that their country is the greatest country in the world and that their people are the greatest people in the world. And in Canada, we don't do that. And I think, there's something nice about that we're not braggy about ourselves and we're okay, but we've got some things that we shouldn't be proud of and all that kind of stuff. But that gets ingrained in you. And then you feel sort of shy about saying, well, I think it's good, but I don't want to bother you. It's like, well, no, we have to get out and we have to bother people a little bit just to get them going, get them interested. And I'm absolutely, as I said, I believe in the product. So I absolutely have no shyness about that anymore.
In one of our promo videos, I think it was for the Westdale, we very cheekily decided to embrace that idea and say, listen, we're Canadian actors and we are so sorry. We're so sorry that you are going to have the time of your lives at our show. Yes. And we apologize that it's so funny that you're going to pee a little and you're going to have to figure out how to leave the theater, maybe with a hoodie around your waist. I don't know. Good luck. So sorry. We're really, really sorry. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
And even as we did it, we were like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, we did it.
Canadians are very much that film, the Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais, and where there's, a world where nobody lies. And I always feel that's very Canadian, where they'll see an ad and it says, buy Coke when no Pepsi is available. And I think there's very much, we kind of have to sort of to get over that, particularly with social media, because this is something where that I've had to learn is that, maybe 5% of people are seeing your posts. So someone will say, I posted 20 times a day, and they're like, oh my God, aren't people going to hate you, for posting so often? Not everybody, 5%. Well, Damon would know the numbers better than I, but it's okay to flood, these sort of things when you're trying to promote your product, service, or show.
People, my friends rag on me about it all the time, because I've written 3 novels and I promoted them heavily on social media, and people, made fun of me for plugging my books so much. But I was like, well, I'm not Stephen King. People are not lining up to get my next book. I got to tell people that it's out and you can get it. By the way, you can get it on Amazon. And but you have to do that in Canada, especially. Some of the theaters we play pull in American comedians and stuff, and they don't really have to promote it very much. People will just recognize the name and they'll probably buy a ticket. So good for them, but we don't have that. So we do what we have to do.
And I would ask, how could you otherwise put a show of 2 hilarious Canadians touring across this country? How could you promote it by yourselves otherwise? You would be at the beck and call of some agent or some troupe, right? So, I think it's fantastic. It's a huge new opportunity in that sense. So all power to you. Keep plugging away with the Facebook posts.
Yeah.
I was saying, as we're coming to the end of our conversation, I just want to know, what sort of advice would you give your younger self? Geri, do you want to start us off with that?
Oh my gosh. Well, typical Canadian girl. I was a high schooler who wanted to be an actor. And for 10 years after graduating from high school, I got lost in the world of waitressing, with the constant thought in my head being, who are you to think that you get to be an actor? That would be a dream come true. But Canadian girls, they don't make a living acting. That's some Hollywood story that happens to people from another country, certainly not you. And then I just, after literally a decade of waitressing, angry waitressing, by the way, I just woke up and thought, why not me? Why not me? If other people get to do this, then why not me? And that was when I stomped down to the Second City. I ended up having to crash auditions there because I didn't get one the traditional way. But almost everything that's happened to me in my career as a professional actor happened either from me crashing an audition or making my own work. So, I crashed to get into Second City and ended up getting into the tour company, which was lovely. After I finished at Second City, I wanted to get into television, but had no idea, what is this magical thing that takes you from stage to TV? And a girlfriend of mine, Jennifer Robertson, who's very famous from Schitt's Creek and a ton of stuff she's done, she came up to me at a commercial audition and said, "Are you working?" And I said, "No, I'm not working. Are you?" "No." She said, "Why don't we write a show?" So we sat down and wrote a show together, put it up at a tiny theater in downtown Toronto. Almost nobody came. Like, we had audiences of 10 people on a Sunday night. But on the very last night we did the show, a CBC executive came in and saw it, and they ended up buying that show as a 1-hour comedy special. And from that, I got a 22 minutes audition. So the theme in my life has been, just like Geri started by saying, nobody's coming to discover you unless you're this incredibly lucky lottery winner in our industry. You have to make your own work, and you have to make stuff that feeds your passion as a performer. And when you're doing that, people notice, and that's when doors open. No one's going to fling them open for you. You've got to fling them open yourself and shine your light through and just wait and hope.
Yeah. If I could go back in time, I would go to meet a younger Geri Hall, and I'd say, "Go find Geri Pearson now. You have to find him." And she said, "I don't know who that is or what. You've got to find him. It's very important." And then I would disappear, and then everything would change. But yeah, no, I would say much the same. I grew up on a farm in southwestern Ontario. Nobody I knew did any of the things I wanted to do, which was to make cartoons or write comedy or perform. Nobody did that there. There was no path. So I just stumbled my way along. But I do remember going to Second City to the fire hall and seeing a show and saying, "Hey, I took this girlfriend at the time. I said, I think I could do that." And she said, "No, you can't." Anyway, so we didn't last. But
we should give her comps for the show, Geri. Let's invite her.
Oh, she's been totally humiliated by now, Geri. We have to leave her alone. She's so ashamed now. But then within about 2 years of that conversation, I was on that stage. But it's only because I said, "Okay, I'm going to go take a class. I'm going to go see some shows. I'm going to start doing the work." And then I was able to do it. But you do have to make that leap and say, "No, I can do that," even though I grew up in soybeans.
Yeah, and just not waiting to be invited. I mean, this show that we're doing now, I left 22 minutes and came home to start a family. And the kids were about 2 years old. I have twins. And Geri was a dear friend who would come up and visit me and have coffee while the babies were screaming, and I hadn't showered in 3 days. And we just started talking about our careers and that we both wanted to be performing again, and we just weren't doing it. And we thought, well, wait a second, why have we fallen back into that young performer mistake of hoping that the phone's going to ring? If you could do anything right now, what would it be? And we started talking about, oh God, well, I miss that live theater. I miss that ocean of laughter and what that feels like. And so we thought, well, what if we wrote a show? And we just got a pen out in my kitchen and thought, what would our show be about anyway? And that's how Middle Raged was born. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just realizing that you deserve a seat at the table, and you're not necessarily going to get an invitation to the table, so you got to crash the table sometimes.
Yes.
Wow, you guys have re-inspired me to chase my dreams as a songwriter. Peter, I'm quitting the podcast. I'm done with this.
No, I worked as a graphic artist, which was also a creative job, but I worked as a graphic artist at CBC for about 20 years. I was doing animation for Mr. Dress Up and Sesame Street and stuff, and it was good, but I wasn't satisfied. And I was doing at night, I was going and starting to do improv and comedy and stuff. But I did, Damon, hold on to the steady stuff. for quite a while before I moved
to stay here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, no, just
Okay.
keep at it. Just keep practicing, and but you'll know when the time is right to jump. And it took me a while, but eventually I did jump. And I had little kids at the time. I gave up the other job, and it's like, okay. But opportunity was presenting itself, so I jumped at it.
Okay, Peter, I'll stay on for a couple more episodes then. Because you pay so well. Because you pay so well, I will stay on.
Yeah, we didn't know we were being paid, Gary.
I'm sorry, Peter. Sorry.
The e-transfers haven't come through yet. They will eventually. Don't worry.
Needs more zeros.
Damon, I was going to say that a big part of business is networking, of course. And Gary and I have always wanted to be in a band. So you should come over and jam sometimes and we'll just start a band.
Done and done. New Corky and the Juice Pigs reboot. I love it.
No, there you go.
I love what you were saying earlier, Geri, about how, you weren't working, a friend wasn't working, and hey, let's put a show together. And I think that just like, it really talks about the importance of networking. And, even though, being an actor, it's very much about you and did you get the audition? But I think as it is in business, but the more that we can reach out and build that network, the more opportunities that are either going to exist or that we can create for ourselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. My high school drama teacher used to just implore everyone who was dreaming of being an actor to be kind and respectful and a good listener to everybody in the room, because you don't know when you're talking to somebody who they're going to be later on in their careers, what your relationship could be. Jen Robertson, Geri Pearson, all of these people played really pivotal roles in my career and my income. And it was just because I got to sit with good people and talk to them. And from that, realize what we might be able to do together. And I think that applies in any business world.
Yeah.
Be a listener.
Yeah. And I also try to remember the business part can be a drag. And we go, well, why isn't this person returning our call? What's happened with that? How come that didn't work out? So I try to remember that it's all supposed to be fun. And so I often have Pee-wee traveling with me. And that's a little reminder always that it's supposed to be fun.
For the podcast audience, he is holding up a doll.
Pee-wee Herman. Yeah, here we are.
For the podcast audience, the doll looks slightly terrifying. Maybe in person it's inspiring, but slightly, it's worse as it gets closer to the camera.
Yes, but that was part of Pee-wee's appeal. There's a little bit about Pee-wee that you're a bit scared of.
For the video audience, links to therapy after seeing that doll will be available in the credits.
There's a little bit of Pee-wee in all of us. Geri Pearson.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we'll attribute that to him for sure.
Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find out information about the show?
We have a website called middleraged.ca. Middleraged is all jammed together as one word, middleraged.ca. We'll tell you all the places we're playing and stuff. We also, Middle Raged has a Facebook page. It has a Twitter handle, and you can also follow me at Captain Geri Pearson on Twitter. Geri is Geri Hall on Twitter, correct, Geri?
Yes.
Yes.
This month we have shows in Fergus, Owen Sound, Deep River, and Cobalt still.
Yeah.
So if anyone listening is near those communities, we would love you to come to the show.
Yeah,
and if you don't love it, Gary will pay back your ticket price.
Hey, no, now don't put that out too far, Geri.
That will be written in bold underneath, so not to worry, Geri.
It's legally binding, Gary.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have aspirations. We're actually hoping to take the show into the States soon too. We're at the very beginning of that giant hurdle/adventure. But this show is not stopping anytime soon, so keep an eye out for it.
Fantastic. Listen, thank you both again for joining us. We've been joined by Geri Pearson and Geri Hall, who are currently starring in Middle Raged, a sketch comedy theater show, which is currently in Canada and Ontario, and hopefully going to the US very shortly. Also joining us is someone who always puts the show in business, Damon Adachi, a marketing consultant with Sevenfold Marketing. I'm your host, Peter Reynolds. Thanks for listening.